The Atlanteans ran an imperial copper trade empire that stretched from North America to Asia Minor. Archaeologists have long puzzled over the evidence suggesting highly sophisticated copper mining activity took place in the area of the North American Great Lakes some 5,000 years ago. Menominee Indian tradition speaks of fair-skinned mariners who had come in the past to dig out the shiny bones of the Earth Mother. Plato, meanwhile, recorded that Atlanteans had provided an exceptionally high grade of copper that was no longer available in his time. The Menominee Indians mariners were originally Atlanteans, and the destruction of Atlantis by war and natural catastrophe brought about the end of Bronze Age civilization. Furthermore, Atlantis's survivors dispersed to all corners of the former island empire, including Western Europe, the Near East, and North and South America. The last of four great cosmic catastrophes were generated by the cyclical return of a comet and its debris. This quartet of natural disasters was followed by mass migrations recorded in the histories of such diverse peoples as the Incas of Peru, the Celtic Irish, the classical Greeks, and the Aztecs of Mexico. When the archaeology, mythology, astronomy, and geology of these cultures coincide, a common thread is exposed: Atlantis. The fate of the Atlantean Empire is the story of early civilization and reveals Atlantis to be a credible part of the world's history. The Mayans told of two different groups of foreign immigration that came ashore in Mesoamerica. According to the Mayan calendar and cross-referenced to ours, a new world age or sun began on August 12, 3113 BCE. This date goes along with the archaeological time frame for Mexico's first civilizers, the Olmecs. The two previously theorized timelines of 1500 and 1200 BCE for the sudden beginnings of Mesoamerican civilization are reflected with the geologic upheavals and final destruction of Atlantis. Both cataclysms started different migrations that created the two later cultural levels of Olmec civilization. The date of 3113 BCE for the founding of the Mayan civilization is still more amazing, because of the same year that the dynastic civilization began in Egypt. These two developing events, separated by half a world but united in time, were not coincidental. A comparison of the artifacts shows a remarkable similarity. Combined with the identical starting dates for the Valley of Mexico and Nile Valley civilizations, plus the first monarchs in both cultures, demonstrate a core relationship between Mesoamerica and pharaonic Egypt which is beyond questioning. There are no Egyptian traditions suggesting direct overseas contacts in Mexico, however, much less indications of Aztec or Mayan connections with Egypt. Yet both Mesoamerica and ancient Egypt shared remarkably similar accounts of powerful culture bearers who arrived in order to start over civilization in their own respective lands from across the Atlantic Ocean. To the Egyptians, their founding fathers came from the west; to the Mayans, they arrived from the east. Both cultures told basically the same story because they inherited a common Atlantean heritage. The imported features of dynastic Egypt are fundamentally the same details introduced into Mesoamerica. Both civilizations appeared full-blown in history, without the long-term progression of evolution seen in other organized societies. If the Egyptians had planted their culture in Mesoamerica, the two civilizations would appear virtually identical, the one having been little more than a colonial extension of the other, but this is certainly not the case among any of the uniquely identifiable societies of Mesoamerica. For example, that both the Mayans and Egyptians, isolated from each other by a vast ocean, used hieroglyphs suggests that both peoples received them from the same source. Neither written language translates the other because both systems evolved separately over many centuries. Differences separating Egyptian from Mesoamerican civilizations stem from the particular reaction of immigrating Atlantean culture bearers to the local environments they found in two different lands. There were enough similarities, however, to show they sprouted from the same Atlantean seed. In other words, Mesoamerica and dynastic Egypt were local forms of the Atlantean theme which was common to both. The mythic and historical heritages of these societies do not speak of Egyptian but rather Atlantean origins. Indeed, civilizing influences reached Mexico at the same time they appeared in the Nile Delta. The Maya foundation date of August 12, 3113 BCE, must have been the day that Atlantean refugees landed at Veracruz. Sailing in their reed boats, they fled the first of the serious geologic upheavals that troubled but did not yet destroy their oceanic homeland. Sharing a foundation date in the late 4th millennium BC are not the only similarities between the two cultures. Fundamental connections between Mexico and Egypt through Atlantis are apparent in abundant cross-cultural illustrations. For example, Mesoamerican pyramids bear strong resemblances to Sumerian ziggurats and especially early Egyptian step pyramids. The most famous step pyramid in the New World is Yucatan's Pyramid of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. After dawn on the vernal equinox, the lower portion of the west face of both this Mayan structure and Egypt's Great Pyramid are in shadow. As the day progresses, the west face of each become increasingly illuminated as the rays of the sun move from the north, crossing the zenith at noon. This phenomenon is unique and occurs only on the first day of spring. The similarities between dynastic Egypt and the Mesoamerica cultures only intensify when we include the rest of the world's pyramids.